Hello guys, good evening. So my name is Raja and welcome you all for this training on the UFT live session. So I'm excited to present a small session on this. It's going to be a 6 to 5 weeks session, and this today's session is going to be a small demo on what we'll be covering on UFT live training and what are the concepts, and to just give you a feel on what is the training is going to look like. So for that, the objective of today's session will be just four things. One, I'll start with a small overview about mind map training resources that we have that you guys can make use of it once you're enrolled into the system. What are those tools and the assets that you can make use of for the training, and then we'll step into the UFT tools. Just start with its evaluation and ecosystem because it's a group of tools that supports a wide range of testing, and which how specifically we are going to concentrate on one part of the tool. And then I'll also walk you through on the training structure that is designed for this, and then finally we'll end up with a demo concept. Okay, so I'll stop here. So I just told my introduction. So if you guys can just speak up for a second about yourself and what's your background and what's your objective for the session, then we can go from there.
Hi Raja,
Hello.
this is Prerna.
Hi,
Can you hear
Prerna.
me?
Yeah, Prerna.
Yeah, so I'm Prerna and right now I'm working as QA analyst at UPS.
Okay.
And I already have Selenium WebDriver and Selenium IDE knowledge,
Okay.
but my project requires QTP.
Okay.
So I'm interested in learning QTP advanced. I already have like basic QTP knowledge, but I wanted to learn advanced QTP.
Okay, great. Okay, welcome, Prerna.
Thank you.
Hi. Who do you have on the call? Who else?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? This is Robert.
Hey, hi, Robert. Welcome to the session.
Hi. Thank you. Yeah. My name's Robert, and I have years of experience as a validation analyst in pharmaceutical industry, and I have training with Windrunner and Test Director.
Okay.
But it's been a lot of years back, and I didn't actually use it that much because most of the projects that I've worked on are use manual testing.
Okay.
So I just thought I update my skills with QTP.
All right, excellent. Welcome, Robert. Who else you have? Okay. Did I miss anybody else, or I'll proceed? Okay. So thank you guys for joining. So as I said just before, like today's session will be a quick peek into what we'll be covering over the next 4 to or 5 to 6 weeks. So I'll start up with the tools and assets that MindsMap provides us once we are enrolled into the course. So this will be a starting point for all of us, so that we can always go back and refer to these items. And whenever the day-to-day tasks are done, it will be uploaded over here, and we can have it as a repository. So as part of MindsMap, we are trying to provide you the quality training as well as the content, and we have structured the training in a manner so that you are able to take it up at your own pace, and we're able to deliver the objectives. So at the end of the session, we wanted you to understand the concepts of UFT, so that you can take up those concepts with a hands-on experience what you gain here and get into the projects and implement them. So that's the overall objective. So with that, so the first point of entry will be the if you get into the MindSmart website, you'll be having the QTP training details, the session details detailed out in a nice manner. It contains the total content, what is the curriculum, and what are the tasks that we'll be doing, as well as what are the projects that we'll end up creating. So it gives an overview about the different items that is required for this particular training session. So since it is a huge website, we have listed on the specific links that is required for you guys for specifically to UFT training. So you can refer to that. So that's the first one, where it will give an idea about what is the course, and what are the things that we'll be covering up over here, and the course of projects that we'll end up doing. And if any frequently asked questions you have, you can refer to it. It will be a first point of reference. Okay. And then second, this is the knowledge base. So once you are enrolled into the course, um, as well as once you get back into the session, here you'll have a session, you'll have a tab for UFT. So the objective of this particular area is, if you want to take a pre-evaluation of your knowledge. So if for example, if you already have a pre-working knowledge on some of the concepts, and you want to see where you actually stand, you can actually take up an existing set of like a small test that evaluates you and let you know what's your knowledge level on that. So just only for your own pre-assessment, and if required,
So
you
this
can.
is manual testing. This is manual testing
No.
evaluation, or?
I'm just showing you an example. So this is a quality assurance, is like a functional manual testing test. That's what you're seeing. But for UFT,
Mhm.
since the course has just started, when it's
Mhm.
starting by 31st, right? By then you'll have a new set of tabs here that will take you through a set of assessments that you can do as a prerequisite to do the course, just to see your knowledge on where you stand.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just giving a brief overview about what are the options we have in the system, so that you are aware of that. That's it. Okay, so nothing more. So then the third one is the knowledge assessment. So this particular module, this is where if we will keep all the any references you want in order to take up the course, any materials that were used as part of the session, or any recordings that were done. All those assets will be put in one common place, and you will be given access for the same. So you can refer to that and access that at any point of time. Okay.
This is a lifetime access, or like, I mean, it will be
Yeah, it will be there.
uh,
So once
for
you
the,
are enrolled in the course, you'll be having the access for lifetime.
okay, okay, thanks.
All right. And finally, we also assist in preparing the resume. Like if so needs to be updated according to the industrial standard for automation specific components to be added as part of your resume, we'll help you with that. And we have a separate session on that at the end of the course. Okay. And also you will be having a PDF version of the course content that we'll be covering as part of this UFT session, so that you can keep it handy for your reference if at all required. Okay, so you have these the list of things that will be covering across, but one thing is, we might be clubbing few stuffs according to the phase which we go along, and also the task that we take it up, we'll try to shuffle around the items over here, but we'll ensure all of these content that is described here are getting covered within this specified time of the duration. Okay. And now, okay, so that's it. So that is an introduction about our resources, what we have at MindsMap. So I actually have 3 slides. So as I mentioned, first we'll talk about the evaluation quickly, and then we'll step into the core concepts of UFT, what we'll be covering, and we'll have a small demo exercise on one of the concept to see how the actual classes that we'll be working on in the due courses is going to happen. We can see that, right? So with that, uh, so right now, so as Robert has worked on the older versions of the QTP, I just give a heads up on how it got evolved. So initially, this tool was developed by Mercury, and it was developed as a windrunner. And then the tool evolved, and it got upgraded as Quick Test Professional QTP. And then it was acquired by HP, and HP converted QTP into UFT. So UFT is a combination of 2 tools, which is like HP had a service test, which is helpful for us to do the API testings, and we had the QTP. So in UFT, what they made is they combined these 2 tools and made one tool where you'll have the feature to have both GUI and API actions in the same set. For example, your first step can be an action that you perform on the screen, and the second step can be an API service call that you're making to any of the web services testing. So, but for the scope of this training program, if you see in the ecosystem of all the HPE tools, right now what we have is an HPE ALM, which is the test management tool, and we have the UFT. UFT again, it had the built-in qualities of QTP. Now it is called a GUI test. So in the modern UFT tool, if you create a GUI test, which is nothing but a QTP test, and you can also create an API test that is nothing but an older version of service test. And as usual, it supports business process testing as well. That was already part of QTP. So if you see, and then the newer addition to the HP tools family is HP Lean FT. So this is one of the tool which is going to support the continuous integration process, along with capability to add on top of some tools like Selenium, where we had the difficulty in handling the web objects, object repository. So this Lean FT is built with an idea to take up the good user-friendly concepts of UFT and put it on open source tools if somebody requires that to work with the development closely. So that is another version of another flavor of the automation suite we have. And finally, we have HP Sprinter, that is the manual recording tool. So the idea behind this is when you are performing a functional manual test cases, you can actually record those steps, and those recorded steps can be automatically converted into an UFT script. So anyway, all of this has different set of licensing concepts, but just to give an overview about where these HP tools stand, I just put this thing up here. So for our session, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be working on HP UFT and specifically into the GUI test scripts, so which is the actual older QTP scripts. So as you all know, like there is no need for you to know the scripting knowledge first of all to create a test, because in GUI you can create a keyword based script as well as test as well as a script based test. So the keyword based script is more like, if you know the concepts of the tool properly, you'll be able to develop a test without a single line of coding. However, when things gets complex, you'll end up creating some sort of test codes, and for that you definitely need the scripted version of the thing of the tool. Okay, so we will elaborately get in all of these things in the actual session. But for right now, just get an idea like how UFT has evolved and what are the features now we have and which tool will be working on. And for our sessions, we will be working with the latest version of UFT release, that is UFT 14.0. Okay, and to simply put forth, among all other tools, why we were taking up UFT is just purely because it is the industrial standard functional automation tool that is now providing the capability to automate mobile, web, API, and packaged applications like your desktop application or .NET application that is not non-web applications. So, and that's the reason we go for UFT. Okay. So next, so how we have structured the training program is, see, all of the course content you have seen in the PDF document, if you combine them, each of these things is going to fall across into any one of the circle which you see over here on your right. So even if you say, if you talk about VB scripting, it's going to come under script development. If you talk about how do we handle data from Excel, etc., they fall under the test data management. So any concept of the modern UFT, it will be covered in one of these sections because it's going to fall under here. So but how so in order to make it user friendly, and also we wanted to make it hands-on, so every concept that we practice with each other, you are getting confidence on that so that you can practice it on your own. So in order to that, what we did was, uh, uh, when the training starts, so as I mentioned, it is going to be a 5 to 6 weeks training, like weekly 3 days, a couple of hours, so approximately looking at 30 hours of session. So in that, the idea is we take a concept, okay, and then first we discuss about that concept. So for example, if I want to talk about object management, we'll talk a quick 15 10 20 minutes on that concept, because it's a huge one. It has in n number of subdeviations within the object management. Different concepts is there, so we'll touch upon one concept after the other. Then we take that concept and get into the tool, and we'll see a demonstration on the tool itself to see how this concept is implied, or how we can make use of this concept, or where we should go in the tool, or which option we should be using in order to demonstrate that particular concept. We'll see that. Then followed by we'll take a hands-on exercise or a task that is related to that particular concept. So we do as a team during the session, and then we'll close out that particular concept. So these three things will be done during the class. Then we will create a list of offline tasks related to the same concept. So since you're installing the tool on your machine, and will help you with the installation of that with the trial version of the tool. After going back, if you decided to have a deeper dive into the concept that we discussed, we can have an optional tasks that you can do on your own in order to just better get hands-on on the concept that we discussed every day. So this will be the approach that we'll be following for our training. Okay, so for in the sake of interest for this session, I just wanted to take one of the example and see how we get along by understanding the concepts, and also how do we do a hands-on with that. Okay, so that's the reason I have taken object management, because it is the core concept of any automation tool for that matter, because the whole objective of automation lies in one concept: how uniquely you can identify an object first, then we can work on the object. We can do anything on that, like adding or editing or selecting a value or clicking. So all actions can be performed only when we identify the object uniquely. So every tool has its own features and methodology of identifying the unique objects that's on the screen. So let's see an example how UFT recognizes an object, and what are the concepts behind that UFT's recognition process. We'll understand that part now. Okay, so okay, I have put this image, so I need your help. Okay, so if you see the image on the right, where we have the cop's car, and then the it's front of a mall or something. Can you please tell me what are all the different unique things that you see here? What do you see as unique things, or unique objects, or what are the different things that you actually see here? Like car could be one person.
Well,
Like you can just give me some, so we'll go from there.
well, there's a man in the middle. He's a policeman.
Okay, so there is a one policeman, and there is another man as well, right?
Then
So we
there's
have,
another man on the left, right?
okay,
Oh,
okay. So
okay,
for
yeah.
the sake, I will put
And there's
them
a
as,
mall.
okay. There is a mall. Then
And different kind of car, different
okay,
cars.
cars. Okay, okay. I'll put trees as well, just for so if you see here, you have person, car, mall, and trees. Okay, so all four different types of objects. So but how we were able to recognize that is, imagine, so we are seeing it through our eyes, right? I'm seeing it through my eye. So I'm able to differentiate, there are four different objects over here, or four different things over here. And how I'm able to recognize them is based upon certain impressions that I have internally. Like I'm saying, a person who's wearing a suit is a police officer, because I know the person means a police officer will be wearing his uniform. And by the perception of the car, the vehicle, how it looks, I know it is a car. And by I'm seeing that's a building, because I knew intuitively we humans are able to understand what it is. But when you translate the same, and then I'm storing everything into my memory, right? So when you want me to recollect and tell me, I was able to tell, okay, this is the person, that's the car. So I've put everything in my memory. But when you take up an automation tool, or any tool for that matter, we have to instruct that to learn something. Only then it will be able to replicate or perform the action that we wanted to do. Because the automation tools we have right now, they are not like artificial intelligence or something. It just performs the task in the way we instruct them to do. Okay, so now what QTP offers is like how we were able to use our eyes to view what are the different things is over here. Likewise, there is something called object spy. So this object spy helps us to go into any application and see what are all the different types of objects I have there. Okay, say for example, so we will get into the tools features and stuff elaborately later, but just for now, just understand we are just talking about one of the concept and see how we can understand the identification process. So as I mentioned, eye of the QTP is something called this object spy. Okay, so this object spy will help me. Okay, let me open a website. uh, Okay, I'm just opening a Rediff mail. Right. So how you have seen different types of objects on that picture, for QTP, the different types of objects over here are like these ones. These are all edit boxes. So QTP needs to know these are of one object type. And all the things in the blue are of object type called link. Okay. And then you have all the different images, like 1, 2, 3, 4 different images you have. So this particular tool, when I hover it over any of the object and I click that, it helps me to identify what type of an object it is. However, once you get a hold of one of the application, you don't have to spy this and know what object it is. But this is important because it when you spy, it lets me what are all the properties that has been assigned to that particular object, because this is the only way QTP will remember back, because we have our memory where we can remember things from our memory, but for QTP we have to instruct, okay, I think with so and so properties is what called a login button is. So if you see, this spy acts as an eye for QTP. Okay, and going one second, and then going back to the presentation, right? So now once I identify, I use my spy to figure out the object, like how we store in our memory. The tool also needs some feature where the object will be stored, so that I'll keep a reference on that to perform any action on that. Okay, so for that, there is something called object repository. So the first thing we saw was a spy, and the second thing we saw was seeing is a repository. So repository is nothing but when we so QTP as such has an option to either record, when you record and flow, or you manually add a flow. It is going to perform the same thing. It is going to read the properties and it's going to store it in one place, and that place is called repository. So here I can use the spy, again the same spy here, to identify what object I want to store. Then I can come here and I'm just adding an object, so which is by name of login. So now it has actually added those objects over here, and it will be there in my repository. But the challenge here is every application is different. Okay, so if you see, when I added this object here, it added these properties by default. Okay, so QTP has a mechanism to identify an object using those properties. But in my application B, there is no property values given for these properties. I want to capture something else. So in this case, I cannot go and keep on editing every time I've added those properties. So that's where the third concept comes handy. That is the identification process. So when I spy and add an object to my repository, what are all the properties I should be actually capturing? It needs to be pre-configured when you do a project for the first time. That is what you do in an application study. So you go and take your applications for a study and understand what are the unique properties that are available, required for a particular type of object, and then you store those things so that when QTP captures, it records only those properties to uniquely identify it back. So what I was talking is, if I go back to the tool for a quick reference, there is something called object identification. Okay, so here based upon the technology, we are talking about web. So when we talk about different applications, the different set of objects is going to show up here. So in case of web, for example, the object which I added was web edit. Okay, it's an edit object. So when I did my proof of concept, or I've decided for Rediff mail application, uh, when I spy and see, okay, before that, I'll do this task. Okay, I'm spying this field, and I see I need any one of the property that is difference between these two edit boxes. Only then I'll be able to uniquely identify that particular object. So in this case, I see the HTML ID is login1. So I do a spy on the second edit box. Okay, so here I see the HTML ID is password. So this value for my application, it is at least for my application, it is changing. So when I'm about to automate, I'll go to my tools, object identification, and I decide for the object of type web edit. This HTML ID is something that is uniquely required for this project. I don't need the tag or the other properties. So it allows you to basically configure. Okay, it's too slow. So it allows you to basically configure what is the properties that is required for you to uniquely capture an object. So once I configure there or make any changes there, then if I try to capture the object again, it will capture only those properties. So to sum it up, it's like, okay, I'm just not removing now. So right now I'll remove the HTML tag. Okay. So which means I'm instructing QTP from next time onwards when I capture any of the object of type web edit, do not capture all four properties, capture only three properties because I've unchecked that. So this exercise we need to do for all our objects in our application which we are testing at one time in the beginning, so that anytime, either when I record my script or when I manually add an object and write my script, it will be capturing only the appropriate properties. So use the spy, and based on the identification that is provided over here, then the object will be stored in my repository. Once it is stored during runtime, it will be reflected back. But we have to do a detailed session on what is the identification process. For example, QTPs.
So when you click on object spy, that means you're recording.
No, I'm just spying it. I'm just seeing it like what the property is. I'm not doing any recording here. I'm just, this tool is just for me to inspect something, what it is about. Okay, see, when I'm doing the spy, bear with me, it's very slow. So when you do a spy, it just lists me all the properties of that particular object. Within the spy, you have an option to add that object to the repository. When you click that, that object will come here. Or
But yeah.
yeah, or you can directly add from the repository. You can just click this plus button and add it over here. If you know, you don't have to inspect anything. But the primary objective of spy is just to go and see what is the property I have. Instead of every time adding in the repository and validating, it is like a runtime thing. You just click on the spy and you inspect an object and see all the properties. Then you go and configure in your identification. Then you add it from here, so that whatever you have configured, only those properties will be added here. Okay.
So it will do the identification. I mean, that's a question. So object spy and object recording, it's a different thing, right?
Yes.
I mean,
it's different thing. I'll come to
it's
that.
do the identification, and while we will be recording your screen or something.
So see, the thing is, either when you record, the object is going to come and store in the repository automatically. Okay, here instead I added that manually. So either you record or you add the object manually, it is going to come and reside in your object repository. So that part is clear, right? That is what repository is for. Object
Yeah,
spy.
repository is clear. Object spy, I'm not getting. It's not clear to me. What is object spy?
Object
What
spy.
it does?
Okay, object spy is just an additional layer, an additional tool that is available for you to just go and inspect any object and see what is the properties of that. Nothing more than that.
So, so that when you click on object spy, uh, so like suppose you're testing web application, right?
I just open my
So,
UFT again. Yeah, sorry. I'll just kill my
yeah.
UFT and open again. Yeah, tell me.
Suppose you're testing some web application,
Okay.
and so so your web application should be open while you click on object spy, or it doesn't matter.
See, you need your application to be open, right? Because when you click on spy, you are actually moving the pointer to any of one of the object which you want to inspect. So you need the application up. Otherwise, it will not. So you need to click on something. Only then it will show you the properties of that.
Okay.
Give me 1 second. I'll just explain you.
So application should be up, right?
Yeah, application has to be up. Okay, let's. Okay, bear with me. So until it pops up. So that's what I wanted to discuss today. So just give a feel of what we'll be doing. So now, since we understood what is that concept is and how we have to do it on the screen, then we'll have a series of tasks one after the other, right from understanding my basic functionality related to this particular module. And when we keep doing that, we will touch upon all the areas that is required for the object identification part or object management part. And then by then, when we complete the tasks, we'll be clear on how to do a hands-on with that concept. Because see, the especially when a tool like a vendor tool like UFT, you need to understand what are all the different concepts that is already there in the tool, so that when we go into an actual project, we'll be able to make use of those features. Otherwise, if you're not aware about the tool features, then we might end up writing code which it's not required, because the tool itself might provide you a default feature to handle that. Okay, so where was I? Like, I was like going for when you open a. So this is what when you, for example, when you open a new test, right? Earlier in QTP, when I wanted to do a new test, it will be just a plain test. But right now, you have an option to select it is a GUI test or an API test. Okay, API is a service test and GUI is the regular QTP test. So you always select, you provide a name and select the GUI test. So it creates a new test from me. Once you are inside the test, then you'll be able to add a step or record a step. So what we can do now is, once the test opens up, I will add two steps, one by recording, another by manually adding. So we'll get to know the concept and feature of what all these three object management tools does. So that might help us. Okay, so okay, we'll talk about all the look and feel of the application and the tool and features later. So right now, so what we're discussing is, let me open the application again. So I'll go to the email. So if I go to my object repository, so I will be having a plain repository because I have not added any of the object. So by adding, I mean if I record also, the object will get added. So if you see, it's blank now. So instead of not doing manually, the straightforward option is I just come here. When I press the record button, okay, it asks you to whether you want to record on any of the open browser. Just say yes and come, and just I'm typing test here and then stopping. So what I did was very simple action, and if you see in the application, one line is recorded. So what I was trying to tell you earlier is what happens behind when I do this recording. So now if you open the object repository, you see this particular object which I type test has been added to my repository. Okay, so when it is added, it has by default added these properties because I have done a pre-analysis by using my spy to see what is the unique property required for this particular object. So that is where you will do if you go to tool object identification. So I have all this window open up here, and for example, this application is new to you, don't know what are the unique properties. If let's take a new object, an object of type link. By default, I have HTML tag and text is what the default properties. That is, whenever I add an object or record an object, it will be stored in my repository. Okay, so now if you go back to my application here, so this is a link object, right? What I'm trying to do is either you can again go back and hit record and go to the application and click on this, or once you are comfortable with the tool, you don't have to do that. You can manually just press on this add object. You can capture only the required objects here, just add it here, it will come to my repository. Okay, and to do a code, just drag it back to the IDE. So we'll talk about all these things in detail. But for now either if I record, see the first object I recorded, whereas the second object I have added manually. In these two cases, whatever property I have configured over here in my object identification, only those things will be captured here. However, I can okay, you're clear? I can manually go and keep adding the other properties. But if I have 100 links, I cannot add every time, right? So we have to configure in the identification process first. So you're clear these two?
Yeah, Raja.
Okay. So now coming back to the spy, if you see spy, the primary objective of the spy is I'm not adding anything. You just take this inspector, you go on to any of the object here. Say I'm clicking on this image object. It just helps me to see, okay, what are all the different properties I have, just to make a study. But after the study, if I decided I want this object to be stored back to my repository, then you click on this icon, add to repository, only then it will come. Otherwise, spy is just a tool for you to inspect the properties and go back to the tools identification and set the configuration right, so that when you record or when you add, it adds. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you open the object spy again? The hand link, the
Okay.
hand link,
This one.
which
Yeah.
the
So
hand, yeah, there's a hand link. Yeah.
so you
So
have to
when you click on this, this will take you to the application or something.
see the basic functionality is when I click on this, all the UFT related windows will get minimized. Okay. So by any
Okay.
chance, if for example, if I have two browsers open, I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
select the browser, then what you have to do is after clicking this one, if you see all the UFT related things went down, but I wanted to select the application which is behind me. So the moment you can
Mm-hmm.
hold on to the control key, see if the hand symbol, right? It's still showing as a hand symbol.
Mm-hmm.
When I press my
Mm-hmm.
control key, it changes to a normal mouse pointer. So now I can, you have to hold the control key and bring up whichever
Mm-hmm.
application you wanted to bring up. So say notepad I wanted to bring. Now release the control key, then it becomes a pointer, then you click on the object. So then it will capture that object. So as long as you are holding it using the control key, it will change to a mouse pointer, which will allow you to navigate to the appropriate application and then spy on the required object for you.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to understand. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Right. See, but this is a very only like 10% of what the object repository and the link does. We discussed now. See, we have a whole lot of hierarchy on which the identification process works. It is not like immediately if the properties are not matching, it won't fail. It will go through a series of process before QTP says that this object is not there or it is not found. But even before getting there, when we do the actual class, we will end up doing a lot of actions within this to understand what object repository and object management and all the things that is related to object does. So this is just to give an idea how we are planning to conduct the session. So when we talked about object management, these are all some of the concepts that came across in this side. So when we do the elaborate sessions, we'll take it up further. Okay. I have, that's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question for when you create the spy for a particular screen.
Yeah.
And then you need to create a different scenario. Can you just copy that folder where you have all the objects?
Yeah.
And then kind of.
Yes. See,
you can do that, right?
Okay, so going back to the concept, right? So right now, if you see, every QTP script I create will have an action, and every action will have a repository. But if you're working in a multi-person working project where you wanted
Right.
to have a common repository, because the objects I add, you don't have to add. So for that, UFT have a feature called Repository Manager, where you can actually create an external repository not related to any of the tests. So if you see, it is nothing but the same feature of, let's show you. So what I have here is an external repository. It is actually the replica of what you see here. This is my local repository, and the one you see on the left of your screen is my external repository, and this is my local. So for example, I can add an object here also. Say I'll go and okay, I'm just adding this for the sake. I'm just adding this object. Okay, I have added an object here. Now this I can save it to an external place totally separately. That's where the framework comes in. Like when you're building your own framework, you can have this repository stored somewhere else totally outside. And then to this particular test, so I have this test, right? You can go to my resources and you have an option called associate my repository. So which means here I can browse the same repository which I've just created. This will be my shared repository, and I can say to which action I have to add. So now if I open my local repository, so we'll discuss all these concepts in detail. The ones which are all shared will be grayed out. It will only read only. The ones which is local to this one, you'll be able to edit here. So in a big project, you ideally don't create anything on your local. You create a new project, new repository which is shared across different teams. So that is done separately. So that's a separate exercise. So we have the feature for that. Okay, did I answer that, Rob?
Yeah.
Right.
And then also, if you've recorded or if you've done the spy thing for like a previous version of the application,
Yeah.
and then the developer made an update, then it will not match, right? Then that's when you
have an
like a
option.
fail.
Actually, you have an option to update your repository also.
Oh, so you don't have to redo the spy thing
No,
again.
you don't have to redo that. And moreover, see, now UFT has a new feature where you can actually capture the entire page's object or a section of object at one shot. See, I'll show an example. See, for example, this is my application. If you think this portion of my application has changed, then you go to the repository. There is something called capture here, the new one. So when you click this one, highlight, one second. I'll have here. Okay, sorry. When you click this capture, it will allow you to actually draw the area.
Your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking.
Okay. Is it audible now?
Yeah, now audible. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. So what I was telling is you have a new option called capture. So I can come here and then I say, okay, capture all the objects in this area. Okay, so then if you go back to the object repository, all those objects that is residing in that area would have been captured. See, all these things have come. So that is why
Okay.
it is important for you to first analyze the objects and configure the appropriate properties that needs to be captured over here. So once this step is done for your application, then either you record or you manually add, the appropriate objects will be easily added and we'll be able to update that as well. So you don't have to redo everything. And also, if I have multiple repositories, like for example, you have created one repository and Robert has created one repository, and then we can actually merge those two repositories into one. So QTP, sorry, UFT by default, it has a feature where it will allow you to combine repositories. It will eliminate the duplicates and then create a unique repository for that. So even that is also possible. So the whole
Okay.
object management is the core for any of the UFT based projects, because once you understand this concept and how the objects are getting identified and what is the process that goes through before it's saying an object found or not found, then remaining all things will fall behind that. So that's why I just took this part.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, does UFT have defect management system also?
Yeah. So that is, earlier it was called HP QC, and right now
Okay.
it's called application ALM.
Okay. Are you going to teach us that? Oh, is that part of the
Yeah,
program?
so one of the if you get the trial lessons of it, HP talks to ALM. So whatever scripts you are creating in UFT, we can store it in ALM and then you can actually run it from there. So we can do that as well.
Okay.
So there is a part of exercises there for that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Only thing we'll not be doing is the API part, because that is again a whole different set of sessions required. So we will try to cover all the detailed concepts of the GUI, entire UFT parts. How do you, so this is the default data tables. How do you use an external data table? How do you connect to a database? And what are the different data sources we can use? And what are the different, how do you debug in this, what are the different methodologies that we have for debugging, and how do you add a runtime data capture? So the way I was planning the session is, we'll talk about a small concept like what we did, and we'll do a hands-on right now and then, so that you are comfortable with what task we are doing. And whatever task that we are doing on a daily basis from first 3 or 4 weeks, we will reuse those tasks in a way so that we will be able to develop the actual automation frameworks in the end, for different types of frameworks that UFT is capable of handling. So we'll do as an exercise, whatever task we're doing, we'll recollect at the end, and we'll convert into a new automation framework that is all done by us. So then you'll get a feel of what are the features we have and how to use those features, and to create or match an existing framework to any of the projects that you might end up working. So that's the whole objective.
Okay. What about all the documentation, all the test reports? Are you gonna be able? Are you gonna show us how to?
Yes.
Um.
So whatever tasks we do, that will all be recorded and put up in the shared drive where you'll have access. That is one part. Second,
Okay.
when you talk about the reports, right? When you run
Right.
QTP, UFT itself provides us a customized report. Like if I run, say for example, okay, let's see. If I go here and okay, so once, see, this is a small test, right? So once the actually the result execution is done, QTP provides a separate exportable detailed result. So I don't have anything written here, but if I can write conditions to my report here, I can attach screenshots over here. So this, and if something error comes up, it will show me what went wrong or what went through. So every step-by-step action that we have done will all be automatically captured here, along with the snapshots or any proofs that you wanted to write up here. But in addition to that, most of the project we might end up writing a custom report, like either you want to write it in Excel or you wanted to write it to a database uh, because of the project need. Even that part we can look into it. Otherwise,
Okay.
if your project is simple, straightforward, you are not worried about too much customization on the result part. This is more than enough because it tells you exactly if something goes wrong, it tells what went wrong there.
Okay.
Okay, that's one thing. And so we are talking about this ALM part, right? So this is the test management tool. It's earlier called QC. Actually, you can connect here once you have the ALM installed, and we'll be able to open the resources from ALM, like how you just open the resource from your local. So you can directly save that back to ALM or open it from those test management tool itself. So since it's both from HP, they talk to each other very nicely. So we don't have to do any configuration, just need to install the add-in. That's it. Okay. And so, and then after that, we will look into all of these options, like what, how data works, how output works, and how if for example, to the previous question, when you record any of the action, right? There's something called active screen. If you enable that, it will be captured here. So you will be able to create the future test from those screenshot itself, even if you don't have the application. So features like that, we'll talk about it. And and what are all the different checkpoints that is available as part of UFT. We'll talk about that. And then we just talked about one of the action. So when you create a framework based upon different set of actions, so in my project you don't want a driver, you wanted to create an action based framework. So in that case, we'll see how we can reuse entire action in another action, or how we make a call to that. And and also now the newer versions of UFT are enabling us to use image based identifications. Earlier it's not possible, because if some of the objects is not recognized by UFT, for any of the technology is not supported, then we'll not be able to automate it. But now in UFT we have a feature called insight object, which means irrespective of the nature of the object. For example, irrespective of the nature of the object, when I add an insight object, it treats as an image, and then it captures that, whichever object I'm clicking. So we will be even able to read the content from that image. So if for some reason any of the object is not recognized by UFT, then we have an option to go ahead and identify as an insight based object and then work on that. So object repository also has evolved big time, and so we'll look into that as well. So in this case, it is an present PowerPoint presentation image, so we are able to capture that. And these objects has a capability to get what is on the what text it has on them. So this way indirectly we'll be able to work with the objects which is not supported by the technology also. So we'll look into those features as well. So we'll once the session starts, we'll make the progress as per the course, and as per the concepts we have here. So whatever we learn, we'll tie it back to one of the item here, so we know we are on track for what we are covering up, and then we'll be able to complete all those tasks by end of the session. Okay. Right. Anything else?
No, no. Well, I was just going to ask, how many times a week does the class meet?
I think they were planning for 3 times a week,
3 times a week. Okay.
and all of these classes will be recorded. And if by any chance, what I was told was, by any chance if any of them was not able to attend a particular session, then we can always catch up on that, because the recordings of that will be available, so they can go through.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, then so then that's it, I guess. So thank you for attending, and I look forward, if whoever is taking up that, we'll discuss from May 31st when the session starts.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.